Good evening and welcome to the business of Michael Jordan, business of Michael Jordan memorabilia. Our last show ahead of The Last Dance, which has been an awesome series. The last two episodes tonight on ESPN at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Tonight, we have a great show. We have BJ Armstrong, who played with the Bulls for 7 seasons, obviously got the first 3 of the Bulls titles with Michael Jordan. We'll talk to him later on. And we'll also talk to Steve Grad, who's the principal authenticator for Beckett. And you might have seen him on Pawn Stars, not Porn Stars. That would be good for him, though. We'll discuss that potentially. Yeah, Steve will be on the show. We're going to talk about Michael Jordan autographs. We're going to talk about counterfeiting. A lot of people have gotten into the memorabilia business over the last couple of weeks, focused on Jordan. What do they have to watch? What do they not have to watch? What's the key things? What are the cards they should stay away from, that kind of stuff, because we kind of think that there's some sort of education as part of our responsibility, introducing people and having people enjoy shows like these. We've been thrilled by your turnout. It has been truly awesome. Final piece of business, we are giving away something, as we tend to do each show. We're giving away one slot in a 1986-87 pack break. That is to get that, you have to go to hashtag MJ Raffle 4, follow the Action Network, reply to our tweet, hashtag MJ Raffle 4. And we're also giving away one slot in a set break, which is you'll get one of 132 cards. The pack is one of 13 cards. You could get the Jordan. If it's a 10, the Jordan right now on Golden Auctions is $97,000. Couple pieces of business. The Golden Auctions sale that we were actively following for 2 straight nights, there were some technical difficulties. They are holding that indefinitely, so we haven't really seen the end of it yet. Again, we saw that card at 97,000. We saw the Mike Trout card hit 540,000. We don't know when it's going to end, but there's a tremendous amount of Kobe and Michael items that who knows when it's going to close. Big day at Sotheby's today, and for our friend Jordy Geller, Shuzium, he sold his pair of 1985-86 Air Jordan 1s signed by Michael Jordan for $560,000 at Sotheby's. It breaks the record for the most paid for a used shoe. It breaks his record. He sold the Moon shoe, which is one of the early Nike prototypes made around 1972, for $437,500 through Sotheby's in last July. And if you want to go back one more, because it's a favorite shoe of mine, it's the shoes or spikes that Roger Bannister wore in 1954, May of 1954, when he was the first to break the 4-minute mile. That went for $409,000. So just another testament that Michael Jordan memorabilia is so hot. I'm certainly going to ask Steve Grad if it's real. Obviously, it's real, but how long is this going to hold up? Is this marketplace forever? I think that's going to be an interesting one, because there have been several people say you might not want to buy now. You might want to wait until, people aren't talking about Jordan every 2 seconds and it's not The Last Dance. Well, that's kind of what's going to be set up tonight, right? Starting tonight, let's see if the prices fall. And obviously you can follow me and the Action Network. We've done a ton of memorabilia stories to see what happens. To see whether there actually is a fall that goes down here. So I think the show is, just because the show is going to end on ESPN doesn't mean we're going to stop talking about Jordan. Of course, it's now going to go over to Netflix, which will give some more people a chance to look at it. My critique of the show, I think it's been pretty good. I didn't think Ken Burns' review to start, when he didn't even see the show, saying that he thought that the fact that Michael Jordan and his people produced it totally dismisses everything that you could think about it. I think that's complete garbage. I think it turned out that he was proven wrong when you talked about the gambling, when he talked about the anything. I mean, certainly the gambling was the big thing. Um, they held his feet to the fire a little bit. He could say what he wants. He could have said what he wants if Ken Burns was producing it. Um, and he does say he thinks he came off as a jerk. I think most people actually don't think that. They come away with thinking about his fight and his as a champion, his want to win. And if other people on his team didn't want to win, then okay, well then he was going to take them with them. So I don't know. I think it's been a really good series. I think it's been good for us fans and sports who haven't had sports. It turned out to be the perfect time. I'm glad they moved it up, and so it's been really good. Again, now we're going to have to look at the Jordan memorabilia market. How in this economy is the Jordan memorabilia market flying like it is? I'm sure there's people who make money, but it's amazing just to see some of these prices. So just incredible. There is a shoe. Leland's just put up an auction. Two Michael Jordan shoes. A shoe that was worn in the Tournament of the Americas that was before the Olympics. That has a minimum bid of 10,000, and that was hit immediately. And then there's this shoe, which is a shoe that he supposedly wore at North Carolina. There's been a bunch of shoes from North Carolina. Not really sure of the provenance on some of these. It's not like an exact connection. And for any of you new memorabilia people in memorabilia, you really have to figure out, hey, is this real? Is this good? You should ask people all around if it's good. But Leland's has had some good auctions in the past, particularly Secretariat. I've lost all my Secretariat bids in the Leland's auctions. So we're hoping to have BJ Armstrong come up. He obviously played for the Bulls with Jordan. Now represents Derrick Rose, JaVale McGee, Josh Jackson, bunch of guys. And also Steve Grad, who will talk to us about how real this Jordan memorabilia market is. Also Kobe too. I mean, the Kobe market is exploding. I think that's a little bit more explainable potentially. But maybe people didn't know how good Jordan was, and now they respect him. Once again on the raffle, reply to our tweet. Follow the Action Network. Reply to the tweet, hashtag MJ Raffle 4, and you'll get a chance to get into Vintage Breaks pack opening. You get one slot in their pack. They selected at random, and you get one slot in a set break. Those are two different prizes. Giving away a couple cool prizes over the last couple weeks. The Bulls 84-85 schedule, really cool. Actually, my parents came over to the house, and I forgot that my dad was somehow able to get the tie that the artist in Chicago made for Phil Jackson each year they won. Hand painted. This is when they won their 6th championship. Robert Daskell was the guy's name. So anyway, I'm gonna text BJ right now, see if he is available. Okay. Dial in. Number 10. From the University of Iowa, number 10, BJ Armstrong. Hopefully we didn't. By the way, I still haven't told the Ray Clay story. Ev, have I tweeted out the Ray Clay story during one of these Last Dance things? I don't think so.
No chance.
So Ray Clay, who like in 1990 gets the Bulls job to introduce the Bulls to be the PA announcer. So he gets it right before they go 91, 92, 93, and he's there until 2002. And in 2002, Jordan's playing for the Wizards. He's coming home to Chicago. And Ray Clay says, you know how I'm going to introduce him? And the Bulls management goes, yeah, as an opponent. So Ray Clay's like, no, I'm going to introduce him from North Carolina, number 23, Michael Jordan. And they're like, nope. And he's like, come on, we can't do this to Michael. Well, he's the opponent. And apparently he got fired over that. Ray Clay, actually introduced Michael Jordan on the last game he played against the 76ers as the Michael Jordan, but the team allegedly wouldn't have it. By the way, I'm getting a note from groupbreakchecklist.com that an autograph relic, I assume that's a Jordan, 9.5 out of 10 Beckett, is ending. It's at 60,000 tonight. BJ says he's on the Zoom, Ev. Is that possible? No. I'm gonna send you BJ's number so that we could get this. So Ev, could you talk to him potentially? I'm talking to my producer, Evan Abrams.
Works for me. Let's get BJ on here. Come on
now. Okay, hold on. We got to get him on. Share contact. Let's get the people what we want. Okay, share contact. Send it to Evan. Evan, you call him and see what's going on. So we'll get BJ Armstrong on, hopefully. This Zoom thing and producing with Zoom, obviously, it tests people on how many Zoom calls they actually do a day. I bet BJ's done a ton of Zoom calls, being an agent. So I'm wondering if we messed up. We do have an extensive email here on this show, done very nicely. Ev, did you get that text? Ev, you hear me?
I did. I just reached out to BJ right now. I might need to call him. I mean, listen, he's able to win 3 titles. He's going to figure out a way to get on the show.
We should be able to nail him. All right. So by the way, I know that people knew that I was bidding on the Trump, Indiana, Michael Jordan marker. I stopped at 13,300. And if anyone has any questions about why I stopped, after 13,400, I have to tell the wife. So, that's why I stopped. And I'm sure no one will question me after that. So we have pulled out of that auction. I also I did not win, or I'm not bidding anymore, the Wally Pip check. Hold on. My guy Evan we have BJ Armstrong. All right. So introducing the man from the University of Iowa, 7 seasons with the Bulls, 89 to 95. Now at Wasserman, represents Derrick Rose and Josh Jackson and a bunch of other guys. He is one of the most fascinating people that I have talked to about the game of basketball in general. And let's welcome BJ Armstrong. BJ, are you there?
There we go.
Yes, there we go. Let's see your face a little. Pull down. Let's see your face a little bit more. I see more Abdul-Jabbar than you.
All right,
there we go. All right, we got you on. It's the technical capacity of everyone. I assume you've been on Zoom calls with Team Wasserman. But thanks for getting in. I want to get right to it. What has it been for you to watch this? I assume The Last Dance has been kind of surreal to watch pieces of yourself. Obviously, there was a big piece when you were with the Hornets from last episode, but as the Bulls parts, do you relate to it, or is it kind of like an out-of-body experience?
Well, watching it, I never imagined 25, 30 years later, I would be still recounting these stories of what happened, or trying to, still tell the same stories that, you lived. It's looking at yourself on television is always, at least from my vantage point is always kind of weird. You know, you're watching yourself. And I just never thought that my life was really that exciting. I didn't know that it was something that people were that interested in. I knew, you know, we were trying to do something. Obviously, we achieved it. And, you know, it was.
Oh, do I hear you? I think I lost you a little bit. Now I got you. I got you again.
Never thought that it was anything out of the ordinary, other than you played, you did your job, and you try to do it to the best of your ability. So it's a little peculiar to watch yourself on television, to say the least.
What was Jordan? How hard was Jordan on you guys in general, or is that overplayed? Did you guys have your own motivation? What was he like?
Well, you know, I never found it, you know, anything out of the, you know, I didn't like come in and go, oh, wow, that was different or anything. It was very simple. I just found it to be very simple, very straightforward. We were very focused, and our best player, which was Michael, was very focused. He made it very clear of his intentions were, you know what, I'm here. We're here to win. You know, we're going to, you know, have fun. You know, the one thing that, you know, I don't think was touched on, but maybe later this evening there will be, is that he had a sense of humor. And we just played basketball. It was very simple. It wasn't like, okay, we're trying to do X, Y, and Z. You know, we're just trying to do one thing. We're trying to win basketball games. So the focus, the intention was set, and we went about our business each and every day. So I didn't find it complicated at all, because, you know, our best player, if there's one thing you know about him, and I think that's very clear and very obvious, is that his commitment was there. It wasn't just you talk about it. You know, you had to be about what we were trying to set as an intention as a group back then, because we were trying to get over the hump, and eventually we did. And everyone was committed to that lifestyle.
What was it like from going from, you know, 89, your rookie year, to 93, 91, 92, 93, as things amped up? As, listen, the world was much smaller back then. Right. And there was a sense of building that, you know, Michael Jordan's the greatest, Michael, you know, and then it's like more and more people, and more, there's more people that show up at a hotel, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So what was that like to kind of watch over time, being part of the inner circle?
Well, you know, that group was a very focused group. And I was very fortunate when I came into the league as a rookie that, you know, I had amazing veterans, right? I had Bill Cartwright and John Paxson. And so the things that were going on outside, you know, I was watching those guys, what their reaction was, and it was with great humility, because most of those guys had been around the league and they knew the other side. And they made sure that I understood that as well. So the humility of when people, you know, give you their time, you know, you don't take that for granted. And all of those fans were coming in the middle of the night, right? We would get in at 1, 2 in the morning, and suddenly those people would be there. And it was with great humility. I saw the veterans would stop and make sure they appreciated, because most of those guys had been on the other side when no one would show up. and, you know, when you lose, you understand and appreciate winning. So even though I was young, it was very clear from the veterans and people who had been in the league, they made sure that I understood what was going on, and that I was present, and to know that, you know what, live in this moment, appreciate it, because it, you know, we don't know how long this is going to last. So I'm forever grateful for that. And it was with humility that I would always take time. And I would, you know, even to this day, when people stop me or still remember something that happened 25, 30 years ago, it's with humility that I try to be appreciative and thank them, because, you know, they're giving you the most valuable thing that you have, is their time. And I respect that.
Your players that you represent now obviously know of your history, or maybe they don't. Is there, BJ, hey, has anyone ever said, hey, you ever play the game, or give them advice on, hey, you know, BJ, you played, what's your advice? So I mean, is it ever like they don't know who you are? Is there enough of a gap in your career? Your last year was 2000, right? 99, right. 2000. So hey, I mean, okay, you know, we're 2020, these kids are 18, 19. So anyone who doesn't know you, but you then stepped in to represent.
Well, it's enough of a gap. And, you know,
that's a yes. That's
yes,
a yes.
Yes. So the funny thing about is and the younger people, the one thing that's been really funny is their response to the physicality of the game. And they all want to know, man, did you guys really play that physical? What was that like? So listening to their questions wasn't so much whether I played or not. It's just the style of play and how we played. And it's just a different era than, you know, the way they currently play, but it's different rules back then. So their response is always when I speak to them now is like, man, the league was really, really different than it is now. It's like, yeah, it was a little different when you drive to the basket. It wasn't much driving and dunking, and you didn't do that. You just drove, you scored, and you ran back on defense. So that has been a kind of a common theme with all of my clients as they're watching The Last Dance.
You once asked me, well, what was the shot that Michael Jordan always wanted to take? And I'm like, I don't know, like 10-foot jumper. And you're like, no, he always wanted to get a layup. And so explain that to me, that a layup was always his goal.
Well, you know, when you're playing, you never want to settle, and you're constantly trying to dictate what you can do, and the defense is trying to dictate what they want to give you. So, you know, the one thing I always admired, especially the leading scorers or top scorers in the league, is, you know, you have a responsibility. Just because the play is called for you, you actually have a responsibility to shoot a good shot and shoot the highest percentage shot that you could get. And I always admired that about him, is that he was very responsible as a scorer. You know, he could have shot anytime he wanted to shoot, but he always shot over 50%. He was always very conscious of the shots he took, and he took great responsibility in that and taking the shots that he wanted, not just because he could, you know,
right.
play the ball. So, you know, you dictate that, you know, that's giving us the best option, but there's a responsibility just because that's your play. And he had a great sense of that. He was very responsible as a scorer, and clearly he could score with the best of them. But, you know, he always took the shot that he wanted. He never allowed the defense to dictate to him. And that takes a lot of discipline to do that, because he faced every defense possible, and he always dictated whether it was a double team, triple team, or what have you. Even the Jordan rules, he made sure he got the shot that he wanted all the time.
I know Jordan doesn't really do negotiations, but have you ever had a conversation with Jordan, you as a player, you as an agent rather, on a player for the Hornets, and there was something going on there?
Yeah, well, we do it. It's always funny because we know each other. You know, we go back, and it's always funny, right? And to know him in the way that I know him, and then to know him now as he's an owner and he's got to do what he's got to do, it's just so hilarious to me.
Does that give you a leg up, or is it actually?
I don't know. It's just, you know, because we're always just laughing. You know, it's like you know, when you know people and you have to do business, you know, it's really funny. So, you know, I think the side of Michael that no one really sees, and I don't know, maybe they touch on it tonight, is that he really has a sense of humor about all of this. So he's really funny. He's always been great that way. And when we do sit down, of course, you know what he's got to do. I got to do what I got to do. We got to do our jobs. But beneath it, we can always sit down and figure out a way to have a few laughs along the way.
Now, they showed some of the gambling and how Pippen and Jordan and Ron Harper. I didn't know he was the third wheel. I'm not sure. Given his salary, although Pippen wasn't making a ton of money, was that evident on the plane and stuff? Like that was the card game that you had to know what you were getting into.
Well, you know, back then, this is pre, you know, cell phones and social media and so forth. So, you know, you're always looking for ways, especially during your downtime. There's a lot of downtime, right? You're on the bus going to the plane. You're on the plane. You hurry up to wait. Then you take off. Then you land, and then, you know, you're just always looking for downtime. So there was nothing for guys. You know, those guys were always playing. Those guys were always talking, and that was just, it was more than anything, it was just entertainment, right? It was just like, you're always trying to sleep, or maybe a few of us were trying to read a book or, catch a nap or what have you. And those guys, you could always count on those guys to always be doing something. So it makes, for me, I'm not shocked that, Ron was in that group, because by the time Ron and I played a couple years together, and that was the year that Michael came back. So, but for sure, he fit into what they were doing, playing the game for sure.
Last question to you. So do you have any Michael Jordan memorabilia locked away in your closet now that I don't know, did you hear the Air Jordan 1 price today?
I have not.
Okay, so Sotheby's sold an Air Jordan 1 he wore in '85 for $560,000 today.
Wow. That's an.
Do you you probably weren't the one to kind of like ask for things, but do you have anything of his in your collection?
I do not. I do not. I just, when I was playing, I was just, like I knew he was doing his thing with the Air Jordan and selling the shoes. But that was before, now to watch my kids and watch all of the kids. Every time I go down the street, I'm always amazed to see, the impact that he's made on the culture, right? The culture of music, fashion. He's gone from a performance shoe now to its streetwear or lifestyle. And so I did not. I was anything I could do to help him as he was doing his thing. Of course, I would have done. But I never asked him for a pair of shoes or an autograph or anything. That just, that was kind of his thing, and that's what he was doing. So, but that's great. I mean, now as my son, my oldest son, who's 19, he always tells me, I didn't see Michael play, but I know the Walking Jays. I was like, what's Walking Jays? So I'm getting caught up to like the fashion, right? I didn't know back in 1989 that this was going to be a thing. So it's been fascinating for me to watch.
Come on, Dad! You didn't get me an autograph there. Come on,
I know.
Dad.
My dad and my son is all over me. He's all over. He's like, Dad, how could you not get those? How could you not know? Well, I just didn't know. I had no idea that the Walking Jays were that was going to be the thing, 30 years later. But it's great to see, and I'm just really happy for him that he had this vision, and more importantly, he saw it, and him and Spike Lee and Nike and all those people, they had a vision, and most importantly, they executed it. So it's been fascinating to watch.
BJ, thanks so much for joining us. I always think I don't talk to you enough.
I know we got to definitely come together. We got to talk
more.
I love your
So this is actually, this was purchased in 1990.
Oh, wow.
It is a sand knit. You might have remembered that.
I remember. It's real scratchy.
It says on the back exclusive. That's why when people come out and they say like for memorabilia and they're like, wait, that looks like it's real. I'm like, no, we as fans in 1990 actually had to right away pay your postage and handling. 6 weeks later for like $50, you'd get the real stuff. Like they didn't make like jackets for like fans. Like, you buy the real stuff here.
Is that like ironed on?
It is definitely ironed on.
That's authentic then. That's authentic.
That's authentic. So, and I also found a couple of the ties that were made for Phil Jackson.
I remember that was Phil. I remember those.
So there was a guy in Chicago named Robert Daskell, and someone who I knew him. So I have all 6 of Phil's ties.
Yeah, was that through? If I remember, was that through Bixby's and Crothers? Do you remember that?
I think potentially it was. This guy was a hand painted. He did hand painted ties in Chicago.
Yeah, I remember.
Phil had some sort of deal, and so I got all of them. I don't have. I do have a couple Michael things. Both of them are very weird. I have a Charlie Sheen was sitting courtside at a game at the Forum in '88. And Charlie's like, hey, Michael, can we stay in touch? Michael takes the back of the scorer sheet and writes Michael Jordan, his home address and home phone number. And I have that. And I also have after a game in 1989, Michael scored 39 against the Cavs. He went to Carson's, the place for ribs.
Carson's Ribs. Oh, yeah. Shout out to Chicago.
Yeah, shout out. Carson's, the place for ribs. And he got $72 worth of food. And I have the actual Amex receipt. So anyway, both of those are one-of-one items.
That's really impressive.
Impressive or freaky. BJ, thanks so much and enjoy tonight.
All right, you guys take care. Stay safe. Okay.
That was awesome. My man, BJ Armstrong. That was
great. You guys. Yep.
All right. So that was just a good conversation. We're going to bring in Steve Grad, who I've known for, God, I don't even want to know how many years I've known Steve. But he is the cream of the crop in terms of authentication. He is like the best of the best. He's at Beckett. You've seen him on Pawn Stars. Thank God I'm not going to say Porn Stars. Steve, I said it was you were on a show called Porn Stars. You and Ron Jeremy, apparently. I think as a Long Islander, I have a hard time saying the word porn. But Steve, are you there? Unmute me and let me see your video. Let me see your beautiful face.
Unmute. Oh, I have
there
a bad
you are.
There
you are.
With Harrison Ford.
It looks like you're floating.
I have the picture with Harrison Ford in the background with me. So
there you go. Evan, should we tell him to take that background off? Or
yeah, not? I got to take it off. It's horrible, isn't it? It's you know what, I do so many of these Zoom things that I'm definitely taking it off.
That's funny. I thought that I looked like Harrison Ford in The Fugitive right now. Ladies and gentlemen, Richard Kimball. You doctored the samples. Richard, what are you doing here? Provasic, you lied. Provasic is okay, whatever.
You have to point.
I know. I didn't kill my wife. I don't care. So let's get into it. You've been doing memorabilia forever, autographs forever. How impressed have we ever seen anything like this? A jump in, let's just start with Jordan memorabilia, someone who hasn't played in 18 years, an event other than a death that would jump this business in one player so much. Ever seen it?
No, not at all. It's hard to go back to 95 and think about when Mantle died. Because Mantle started off doing baseball card shows for 10, 15, 20. Then he was 100.
His first baseball card show was 78, which is like, yeah.
So that would be one guy. But I don't even remember 95. And I was in the business. I've been in the business forever. But I was in the business then. I don't even remember it. And I know you mentioned death thing. But the only thing I could remember in terms of like pure insanity was Michael Jackson. And that didn't even last that long. That was maybe 3-4 weeks. And then it kind of died off. This is something, it's interesting to see the autograph thing, Darren, because his stuff had actually kind of gone up and then it kind of just died off for a little while. I mean, his game use stuff was always good. His shoes were always good, but his autograph stuff was kind of like, upper deck basketballs you could find for $1,200, maybe the silver ones for a little more. Maybe you could even find the black ones for $800 or $900. And I knew a lot of people that would buy them and start Dream Team balls, which still people work on all the time. Even some of the upper deck jerseys were $1,500. So stuff had kind of just hit its like low point. And then all of a sudden this thing starts and, we have this terrible pandemic, and think about this, we have no sports and everyone's rushing to this. And it's unlike anything I've ever even seen in my life, where stuff that was going for $8,000 to $10,000 a year ago is going for $40,000, $45,000 now. It's completely unprecedented.
So what's your theory? Because on one side, people will say, well, the con of it is that we have uncertainty. Even the people who had hundreds of millions of dollars don't know where their future is, right? So wouldn't the uncertainty contribute to that? And then you have on the pro side, probably nostalgia, people in their homes looking through stuff. And because they don't have something in the present, they think about the past and things that made them happy. And maybe having something physical then gets you there. Is that how you think this comes about?
I think it's kind of like being able to touch something, and have a piece of Michael Jordan. The shoes you mentioned at Sotheby's, I've never even seen anything like that in my life. I thought that, I believe SCP a year or two ago, SCP Auctions ran a pair of Jordan shoes that maybe they touched that 100. There you go. That one, I was going to say 150, 200 range. That was unprecedented at the time. I think anything Bulls right now and anything from that like early years, especially to the end, is just going like anything I've ever seen. I mentioned to you previously the other day about a Michael Jordan star card, signed his rookie year, $43,000 at auction. That's something that a year ago you might pay you might pay $8,000. And I think those people want to have that in their hands. They're getting caught up in this euphoria. These are a lot of people who maybe weren't even collecting, Darren, years ago, and people maybe have some extra money to spend. And I certainly think it's one thing. They're driven by Jordan, his popularity. It's insane. And his name's always been out there, though. He still does commercials. We have the Air Jordan product. And then you have his autograph, and just him. He's highly collectible. The guy smiles a lot. I mean, I think people want a piece of Jordan. This is the only way you're going to get it. It's not like you're going to be able to go meet him really in person and say hi and shake his hand. You're not going to be doing that. If you're an autograph collector, you can't really go get his autograph anymore. It's not going to happen. It'd be so rare if you got him in person. So this is kind of the only way. And, it's something I've been listening and I'm sure you want to talk about this, but are people going to keep paying this? I think that's like the biggest question. And I've been asked.
You shocked me. You shocked me because when I spoke to you on the phone saying we'd come on the show, I'm like, the Jordan stuff's crazy. It's got to come down. And you're like, I don't know. Like maybe not. Maybe there's enough people. If this is happening during a pandemic of uncertainty, if it gets better, maybe not.
He's the shining light right now. And I mean, 3-4 months previous, Kobe stuff was really hot. But now Jordan is like this shining light in the memorabilia industry. He's always been at the top there. And there's no other autograph, I think, other than maybe Mantle, that's forged as much as Jordan. And we could go back to his early years and even in the 90s, obviously, with Operation Bullpen and all those different FBI operations.
Let me take it there.
Sure.
So one of the things I'd like to do, because there's people listening to us who are just getting into the industry. And, I'll never forget in 1986, the first time I went to a card show, I bought a fake card for $70. I was 8 years old. It was all my allowance for a year. It was the Michael Jordan. It was the Don Mattingly black and white Columbus Clippers card. I'm like, wow, I can get a minor league card and this is going to be great. And I found that it was fake. And as a kid, I was just destroyed, but it made me forever skeptical. The Jordan signature is so beautiful. It has the hidden 23 and versus guys. And I know you retweet when I pan these current players like Vernon Morency
all the time,
who gets paid $30 and all he does is a V on his card. So it's so beautiful, but, give me the caveat emptor, the buyer beware of, that this is also an opportunity for you to get completely scammed out of your mind.
It really is. I actually just saw it. I went and looked just on eBay just now. And I did catch a lot of high-end items because that's what everybody's trying to cash in right now. But I also saw a lot of high-end items that are bad. A lot of Bulls team jerseys, which we saw come out of Chicago. I grew up in Chicago. I was an autograph chaser in Chicago, and in the mid 90s, I worked in the media in Chicago. So I've seen so much of this bad stuff, and I'm an authenticator now, but I've seen so much of it, Darren. That caveat that I would always use, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. I'd just say be even extra vigilant. And, at Beckett, we do a signature review people could use all the time. Just be vigilant because there's people that are listing stuff right now for $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. That's fake. That you could end up buying. It's mostly team items I'm seeing right now, a Bulls team item from 92 or 97 or 98, that type of stuff I see all the time. That stuff is out there. The Dream Team balls, people get caught up in that now with this going on again. I'd use that caveat for years if it's too good to be true. In Jordan, I don't think that applies. You just have
how good are the forgers?
Oh my God. This is what I will tell you this much. The stuff that was done back in let's say the 80s, 90s was terrible. That stuff is kind of like kids play. I'd call it awful. The stuff they're doing now, they're at a much higher level. And Darren, they've been doing this for 5 or 6 years. One of the more popular things to do is take the Jordan rookies, let's say an off grade 86 flare, and that would grade a 4 or 5 at one of the major grading companies. They'll take that. They forge a Jordan signature on back. The bad Upper Deck stickers, which you've seen Upper Deck product for years, they've also had bad Upper Deck stickers that have been out there. They put a bad Upper Deck sticker on there with their numbering system. It goes out. People are paying huge money for it. That's been going on for years. Those forgeries are done outstandingly. I mean, to the point where it's you have to sit with this and look at genuine after genuine and really make those determinations. They do make little mistakes. The guys get really greedy. They've been doing this for years now, especially with his rookie. But I've seen all kinds of cards come into Beckett Authentication the last 3 years we've been doing this at Beckett, and it's been literally out of control. Jordan fake autographs. People aren't trying to cash in then. Now they're trying to cash in even more now.
And then there's the fake cards. Now, a lot of people say, hey, why isn't the 84, 85 star card his rookie? Why are you talking about the 86, 87 Fleer? And one explanation is, well, they were in bags. They weren't mass released, an 86, 87 Fleer was. Well, the truth is that there's also a negative side to that, which is that the folks at Star in 86 go, oh my God, this is good. Let's just reprint the whole thing. And it was at least told to me that the card 101, which is the one that you see that is selling a lot, was not reprinted. And it's like, okay, do I trust that it wasn't reprinted? I mean, seriously? So on that, it seems like a lot of people are having confidence in buying that Star card. As you said, they're now going for 15, 20, 25,000. Are we 100% sure that there was no reprints of those things?
So the great thing is the one that just sold an SCP about 2 weeks ago, sold for 43 and change. That had a period signature from his rookie year. So that's easy to date. And I will tell you this much. I just saw a gorgeous 86 Flair Jordan that's going to go to auction very soon. That is beautiful. The autograph grade's a 9. The card's probably a 7 or 8. That's going to go to auction very soon too. But those have that period signature. Now, if you saw a Star card without that period signature, then you should be worried because, as you said, they reprinted those cards at any time. Those plates were used and used again years later. And that's why I used to work at PSA. That's why they don't grade that card. It's a tough card to grade. You got to really know what you're doing with it. And especially, now seeing with this Jordan stuff, I fully expect a glut of those to come out very soon. Signed, forged, and if not on eBay right now, they'll start coming in for authentication.
And a little bit about the signature, his period signature, where you can really tell in the beginning, his M is a little bit more humpy, like the McDonald's arches. And now
it really is.
Now it's more of a spread out M, his later one, right?
I haven't heard that comparison. That's actually pretty good. That's you want to be, do you want to be an authenticator?
No.
No, not doing that.
Not doing that. Yeah.
No.
So now we're it's going to get really tough right now. Your job's going to get harder, right?
And it does every day. And I see it every single day. And I'll tell you what the great thing is though. What this has brought out is a lot of guys that I used to know back in the 80s and 90s and used to chase autographs with. They're now coming to me and saying, hey, I want to get my stuff in holders or I want to submit it for authentication so I could sell it. So that's kind of the good thing about what's going on too, is you're going to start seeing, and I think we've been seeing it the last 2-3 weeks, is a lot of old time guys that used to chase autographs, used to collect way back when Jordan was younger. They're saying, hey, I'm going to put this stuff out in the marketplace now. And just briefly, like a signing history of his, Jordan was a really relatively easy autograph up until about the first championship. And then after that, you could pretty much forget getting him in person. When he retired, story,
by the way?
Oh God, what did he do for you?
No, from 86 to 88, I got him by mail. And my brother and I had a confidential stamp that we bought, that we stamped in, and maybe it was because we got beautiful real Jordan signatures.
Were they real?
I do not think they were secretarial. I guess I'll have you authenticate them.
You're going to have to send those along sometime.
Well, I will. But the fact that it stopped in 1980, like if it was fake, like why not have the act continue going? My theory had always been that by 88 nationally, it was over. And we sent 1 or 2 packages and they never came back.
But I did see mail come back, but it came back from the Jordan Foundation post 88. So those years with the Bulls, and I'll tell you what's even crazy. People used to send to him at Nike. And Nike would send back a stamp. Even I've seen it many times, index cards. Jordan used an auto pen. Someone had an auto pen either with the Bulls or his foundation. And then he also had a signed photo that he would give out with a stamp signature. And then a secretary would sign for him. But, the great thing about Jordan's autograph is that those early years are really the years that I think I would target. And I still have about 25 or 30 left from 86 through about 92 that I got myself. So I still have a bunch that I got in person. And Jordan was a great signer back then. He literally would go out of his way to do it. I remember going up to the multiplex in Deerfield where they used to practice all the time, and he was very accessible. Matter of fact, it was just like parking in a parking lot. You could park right next to his car. He'd come out. Yeah, it was crazy.
That's why the when people say what were the 80s like, it was like that.
It was like that. Yeah. It was like you go to the gym. Let's say you're going to the gym, right? You park your car and you go in the gym. That was the multiplex in Deerfield. He would drive his car. He would just park his Corvette and he would walk right in the front entrance every time. He wouldn't even use, they had like a back entrance that Will Purdue would use or some of the other guys. He'd never use it. He'd go, Will Purdue is like trying to evade people. Jordan went right in the front every time. We're like, there's Hal going to the gym to work out. He's walking in with Michael Jordan. Same thing.
What was it like being in the scrum at that time? I know from being a kid, because I used to stop at the hotels, again, 88, 89, 90, pretty much in all sports were fine. 91 to 94, that's when we got the real photos and the binders and the Sharpies and the, so tell me what it was like being in the scrum competing for a Michael Jordan autograph.
It could get crazy. He held his first golf tournament in the early 90s in Chicago. And I remember he wouldn't even think about grabbing a pen. He wouldn't go anywhere near people. He wouldn't sign. This was his own golf tournament. And always being around Jordan, there was always a crowd around him. It was the same thing in Chicago with Walter Payton. If you went somewhere to see Walter Payton in person, it would be the same type of atmosphere, same type of feeling. The years went on with Jordan and the Bulls, though, it was just limited access. And I mean, when I tell you, Darren, the access was insane at the multiplex, it was something I'll never forget my whole life. And this is crazy. They used to fly commercial for years. So we could go to O'Hare Airport. We could figure out when they'd fly out. We'd go to United Airlines and we'd wait for the Bulls on a Saturday morning, maybe to take to go to Utah or wherever. And Jordan would sit there and sign for us all the time.
Oh my God. But by the way,
on commercial flights.
My head of content, Chad Millman, who grew up in Chicago, is probably about the same age as you, said he is so right about walking into the multiplex with Jordan. I did the same thing.
And that's all you do. And I'll just share one story. I have many of them, but I went one time. This is in '88. It's in the middle of winter. It's February. I went with my brother. We went super early. And as it turns out, Jordan pulls next to us. So at the time I was driving a Bronco or something. We let him walk into practice. He comes out of practice. We ask him if he could sign for us at our car because it's so cold out. So Jordan goes, yeah, just let me start my car. He throws his stuff in the car. He starts his Corvette. He comes to the back of the Bronco and he signs about 15 posters for us. He lets us just flip them and signed in with the gate. He goes, cool, you guys take care. Take it easy. He said, no problem at all. And I mean, it must have been 25 degrees out, maybe even less. He had no problem doing it back then. And those days were really a lot of fun. I still have a lot of that stuff. Unfortunately, I also sold a lot of it for probably, $200-$300. I don't want to think about it.
You know who my guy was on that? Tony Gwynn. Met Tony Gwynn at a hotel. I said, can you, maybe it was 10. Can you sign my card? And he goes, sure, kid. He goes, how many of my cards you got? I go, I don't know, 50. It was like the 87 Topps card. And he goes, all right, I'll sign all 50 of them. Let's sit down. I was like, oh, he was a great guy. You've got to be kidding me. And then
he was one of the best.
Then in 2001, so I was with the ESPN for a year. I was on ESPN News every Wednesday doing collectibles with Bob Stevens. We were talking about memorabilia and stuff like that. And we go to a card show and Tony Gwynn says, hey, look, it's Darren Rovell from ESPN News. And I'm like, Tony, you watch that much ESPN News? He goes, there's not anything else to do. I call my dad. I go, Tony Gwynn just knew who I was. It's like full circle. Anyway, we got 5 more minutes to the show. So first of all, I want to tell you, this is your last chance to get in on the raffle. We're giving away a spot in Vintage Breaks, a pack. You can get in an 86, 87 Fleer pack, and also in their set break, one of 132 cards. So we'll give away both of those by the end. Follow the Action Network HQ and hashtag MJRaffle4. You got 5 minutes. Steve, what's the best Jordan story you got from an autograph standpoint? I know you just told me did he sign them as perfectly as he does for pay? Like, as you know, there are guys who have, and I know this has changed a lot over time. There's guys who have their free signature and guys who have their paid signature.
Of course.
What was Jordan's life like when you didn't pay him?
I mean, they were a little scrunched up. They were a little sloppier, but just remember back in that 80s time, he wasn't getting paid. Jordan was not with Upper Deck at the time. And when he was with Upper Deck, they'd get a little sloppier, but they still kind of resemble that. He always had that Upper Deck signature kind of dialed in. He also signed a certain way for the Bulls too, because they did plenty of that stuff for their charity. But I think one of my favorites is about 93. I was still in college, but segueing also into the media. So they had an event for Wheaties in Chicago, and it was they were celebrating covers of Wheaties, but Peyton was there, and Mary Lou Retton and Jordan, maybe Chris Everett, a few other people. But they gave out to the media a folded Wheaties box with all the covers on the back, maybe 6 covers or something. But I remember I had Peyton sign it. I'm a member of the media. I'm not supposed to be doing this, and I'm not. I'm really not. But I
know you're not.
Yeah, and so I'm really not. And I went up to Jordan, and he looks at me, and he goes, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I'm working in the media now." He goes, "Man," he's like, "I think I've seen it all now." And I said, "Well, can you sign this?" And he just looks at me, laughs, and he signed it for me. But he remembered me from all the autographing.
He knew your face.
And he's like that, Darren. Like if he sees a person, he sees an individual, especially repeatedly through years, he's more likely to go, "I know you." And he's done that with many friends of mine, but I always got a kick out of that. And then years subsequently, I covered the Bulls on and off all throughout the 90s through their championship run. I would see Jordan at his locker because they had the huge scrum after games, and Jordan wasn't one, unless it was the playoffs or finals, he would do the microphone thing in front of the press, but he'd just go in front of his locker. And Jordan would sometimes just glance at me and catch me and just shake his hand and just laugh and just,
oh my God,
just put his head down.
So amazing. Now today, I think eBay after like 2000 really changed things, because you became an enemy. If this was 2006, you'd be like, "You're the guy who's selling me all the time." Now, I assume he thought at the time, were you keeping it for your collection or whether you were selling it?
Yeah, of course.
I think it was a different mindset, right?
It was, but guys would still
who you are and why you're doing this.
They'd say to you once in a while, "What are you doing with these, selling these?" And mostly celebrities and music people did that. But Jordan, after a while, he'd start to see you. After a while, he'd start cutting it down to signing 1 thing or 2 things. I mean, one of the last times I remember getting him at the multiplex, I think it was about 1990 or 1989, 90, somewhere in there. He signed about 7 or 8 magazines for me just walking in. He didn't care. There were days where he was just in a great mood, and usually we'd get him coming in, and sometimes he'd say, "Guys, I'll see you when I'm on my way out," and he'd always do it. So, those were great days as an autograph chaser.
What's the greatest thing you've seen come in recently? Like, as you said, there are things coming out of the woodwork now where like people have kept it. "No, I'm not going to sell it. Not going to sell it. Not going to sell it. Not going to sell it." Okay, yeah, now's the time. Have you seen anything recently where you're like, "Wow"?
Not that I was wowed, but what's kind of cool? I saw 2 in a row of the Upper Deck White Sox card, which are pretty rare and they're mostly forged. And 2 different old school collectors had them in the Chicagoland area. And I was like, man, those are pretty cool. You don't really see them too much. And honestly, that window to get those signed was not good where Jordan was doing it in person. So, those cards right now are going for $2,000-$3,000 signed by him. So it's, I mean, not the greatest item in the world. And obviously seeing those shoes was amazing. And, the 86 Flair Jordan signed, I think that's pretty cool, because I wonder what it's going to go for once it's graded and authenticated. It's something that could go for, I don't know, 100, 150,000, I mean, at least.
I might agree with you on Jordan is going to skyrocket and keep going up forever under this circumstance. Very soon he stops signing. He's a billionaire. What, does he really need to care about the masses having his autograph? It's a pain in the butt. He has to do a. How likely do you think it is that he stops signing for Upper Deck in the next 3 to 5 years?
I don't know if it's likely, but I know Upper Deck has had trouble getting him to sign stuff recently. In years past too, Darren, if you knew the right guy that was tied into Upper Deck, you could get your own items signed by him too. That's kind of ended. Even Upper Deck getting their own product signed is very difficult lately. But I do know someone that did get Jordan during this pandemic because he was golfing somewhere. So he was actually able to get Jordan to sign some stuff maybe about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, in that range. So Jordan's still signing his name, but he's very difficult unless you know the right people. I always felt if you're tied into him, if you're someone that maybe knew Ahmad Rashad back in the day or somebody, Jordan would always, do a favor. So I still think people can get his autograph. Do I think he stopped signing for Upper Deck? It wouldn't surprise me. He's worth $2.1 billion right now, I believe. And yeah. I mean, what does he need to really do this for? He really doesn't, Doesn't make any sense.
Coming into my last question, I'm going to give you the raffle winners. Chris Klobuka, CKLOBUKA, his handle. He is going to win the pack. He gets the one slot in the pack of vintage breaks, which they're likely breaking tomorrow. We'll let you know. Chris and Brady Bosey, _21, gets the slot in the set break. So thanks to everyone who entered and followed us. Steve, this has been an unbelievable interview. I love talking to you. I didn't even really know the Chicago angle. The last question for you is this. What percentage of what you see is Michael Jordan today, and what was it maybe like 5 years ago? I mean, are we at like 3-4% now, or
in terms of fakes
total,
or real?
Total things to review. Is it the most? Is he number one?
Yeah, I'd say Jordan's number one. He dominated. I've been a professional authenticator for going on 19 years now. I would say that Jordan's dominated from day one till today, and I don't know if that'll ever stop. And his autograph value is continued now, going up again. It stopped for a little while. It keeps going up, and I don't see any reason for it to stop. And that's why I really don't know when this euphoria is going to end there. And plus it goes to Netflix, so it's going to continue for a while. So I'd say, you know what, you mentioned something before. I heard you say something like, you always say like, don't get caught up in it. I'd say maybe get caught up in it right now and buy something, because in maybe a year or two it's going to be even more money. So we'll see. But he's always the most submitted guy, and I believe he's always going to be the most forged autograph in all of entertainment and sports.
Steve Grad, principal authenticator for Beckett. And on the porn stars, not the porn stars.
Yes.
Though you probably take the job for the porn stars too, right? Would you
I don't know. I'm too old for that, dude. I'm just not. I stick to the stuff that's easy. A lot of older people.
Well, that's pretty easy too, but I'm not going to get into that.
Thanks, man.
Hey, Steve, thanks so much for joining us.
Always great talking to you, my friend.
All right,
thanks,
Steve
buddy.
Grad, BJ Armstrong. We gave away our raffle. We talked about the business of memorabilia. This was our last show, at least on the Last Dance and the memorabilia of the Last Dance. But we will be doing this more often, and we'll let you know. For Evan Abrams and Scott Miller and Brian Mears and maybe Mike Leboff and Chad Millman. Thanks for watching, everyone. Enjoy the last two shows of The Last Dance. Good night.